Hey everyone, welcome to the next part of my ghost stories. And stuff that's happening in the past 20 plus years. Well anyways, here we go with the next stories I have here. I remember mentioning something about cigarettes. Well, we had a guy, I actually smelled the cigarette smoke like right over here, and it was only in this one area. And there was a guy, we paid to band these bundles here. He just puts bands and he stacks and he does the things that the other people aren't going to do. That's what they pay him for. And I was mentioning it to him about cigarette smoke, me smelling cigarette smoke and stuff. And it was about 2 weeks later, I was over on the machine over there, on the third machine. And the guy who was banding said he smelled, his name was Jason, said he smelled cigarette smoke over, I can't remember where he said, but he says he smelled it over here. And I thought that was interesting. Nobody smokes in here. You know, you can't smoke in a building. The laws they passed at that time, and so it's really weird. Well, we didn't have smoking in a building. They didn't pass the laws, but nobody smokes. We couldn't explain where the smell was coming from. We had a really good friend that worked here. He passed away a few years ago, and he's my favorite person to ever come through here. He had me laughing and everything. His name was Rick, and he just all the time had me at stitches. Well, I used to tell him the stories and stuff like that. He gave the name Sal, so he thinks there's a ghost called Sal here. So we call him Sal, you know. Whenever something happens, we say, "Hey, Sal," you know, this and that. So, well, I was in my room up front, and I'm watching TV, and I'm sitting there, and the channel changes automatically. I had one of them digital boxes that you have to hook up your TV. It just changed the channel by itself. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I changed it back. And I'm sitting there, and about 10 seconds later, it changes again. So I was like, "Hey, Sal, knock it off." And it stopped. Didn't change channels all by itself. I couldn't explain it. I was like, that was weird. And I think it happened about a week or two later. It happened, and I said the same thing, and it stopped, and it never happened again. So I thought that was never changed my channel since. I forgot to tell you, we have these 2x4s that hold the backstop in. Here's one over here. I'll be right back. Let me get it. These 2x4s, we hold it. They hold this backstops in so our bundles come out nice and straight. Well, you drop these. You get used to the sound. You know that sound. You know, everybody drops them and bangs them around and stuff like that. Well, this is one of 3 times that actually got me to get in my car and park outside and wait for someone to come in. I was up front, and it's a good walk up front. And I was coming out of the break room in the morning. It was around 5 o'clock. And I heard this all the way up front. And it wasn't a bounce, it was just that one single hit. And you know that sound. Got my keys, got my car, parked across the street, waited for somebody to get here in the morning. This one happened about 4 or 5 years ago. Some of these aren't in order, chronological order. I'm getting them out. I was coming back. I was back here. I turned all the lights on. I come walking back. I think I was walking over that way. And it sounded like someone took one of these 2x4s and slammed it on top of a bundle up front. And it was loud, as hard as they possibly could. They could hit one of these bundles, and I heard it, and it was loud. So I stopped, thinking I'm going to hear any more noises. Nothing. So I start walking up front, and I'm sending a text message to my wife that you know, about what just happened. So I was like, well, let me go in my room and sit. So I go in my room, or before that I shined some flashlights because I thought it was up, anywhere up there. I'm shining my flashlight. Even though the lights are bright in here, you still use a flashlight sometimes in some darker spots. I didn't see nothing, so I went in my room and I texted him. I was texting my wife. One of my rooms says, just heard a loud noise. When I was in my room, I heard it again. So I was like, nobody's here, and I didn't know what to think. So I says, well, let me just go in the break room. So I went in the break room, and I'm sitting in the break room, and I was like, I moved the chair toward the door. So on the other side of the break room, we have a door with the little windows in it, and I was sitting there, and I says, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to sit here in case something comes through that door. I'm gone. So it was about 2 minutes later, I heard it again, a loud boom. I don't know what it is. It was loud. So I just got my keys. I had my keys. I got my keys. I parked across the street in the parking lot and just sat there. And that was the third time that something happened that got me out of here. That I didn't want to stay in here. I don't know what it was. It was just, it freaked me out. It was in the daytime. I was like, well, let me go up front in my room and get me some coffee. So I go up front, and this happened to me on two separate times. I go in my room, I close the door behind me, I'm pouring my coffee, and on one of my walls, there was a hallway in between me and the girl's bathroom. I heard like a pound, like someone took their fist and hit it pretty hard. And I got done pouring my coffee. I walk outside real quick, and nobody's out there. Nobody's in the bathroom. Nobody's anywhere. Then after that, I come walking back. Everybody's on their machine. We have no truck drivers. We had nobody sneaking around. The owner was back on the forklift driving around. So I don't know what that was. That happened 2 times, 2 separate occasions. I would say about a year from each other. I remember that. I don't know what it was. It was loud, but you know, this next time, I had my the price of gas was pretty high at the time. It was like, I think it was over like $4 a gallon. And I used to pull my truck. I used to back it down the dock and pull it in the back warehouse, in the back. Well, I would, you know, park it there on the dock, walk up through the front, come through the back, open up the door, back it up in there, close the door behind me. Well, in the morning, I wanted to pull it out. So I walked back. I go back to my truck. It's dark like this, and before I get into my truck, as I'm walking toward my truck, I swear I heard footsteps walking up behind me. I stopped and I'm looking around. I don't see, you can barely see light. Yeah, it's almost pitch black. And I swear I heard someone walking up behind me. Well, I hurry up and get in my truck, start it up, pull it out, get out, close the garage door behind me, drive down the dock. I didn't lock it, but I drove down the dock, parked it. I go back up front, you know, and I'm sitting up there, and it's in the winter time. I had a thick winter jacket on, and I come in and I was going to turn the breakers on. So I'm sitting there and I'm pointing at the breakers, and there was a breaker that was on that I don't remember turning it on. So I sat there like this, pointing at that breaker, just thinking to myself, I didn't turn that breaker on. Well, something hit my arm, and I thought it was maybe a drop of water or something from the roof. Maybe it got a new leak. And I looked at my arm, and it wasn't wet or anything, and I looked up, nothing there, and I looked down on the ground. There's a piece of wire about 2 inches, 3 inches long. It was a thick wire, and one end was stripped off, and it wasn't connected to anything. You know, you can tell if there was abrasions or anything, and it was like just a piece of wire. And I looked, and I was like, I don't know where that came from. I looked, I got my flashlight out, I'm shining it up in the ceiling. There's no exposed wires whatsoever. Where that piece of wire came from, I don't know. But for my hand to be there at that time, sitting there, and it to hit my hand, my arm, I have no explanation. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what. It was really spooky. To this day, I still have that piece of wire. But I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know what happened. I don't have a time for this one or a date, but I can't. It was I think about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. Jacob, a guy that worked here, he comes over to my machine and asked me if I smelled a cigarette. I was like, no. You know, a certain cigarette. He was a smoker. He knew a certain smell of a cigarette, and I can't remember what brand he said, but he says he smelled that certain cigarette. And I says, they all smell like cigarettes to me. He says he smells a cigarette. I can't remember where he said he smelled it. He said he smelled a cigarette. He was one of the banders that used to band and stack everything, and he said he smelled cigarettes. And then a little while later, he comes over and he says he smells a cigar down there by machine 4. And he said it was definitely a cigar smell. And he says if you move out of that space, it wasn't anywhere but just in that spot. And he said, "Oh, smelled the cigar." And I was like, "Well, nobody smokes here, man." It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up. I was laying down for a little while. I woke up and there was a musty smell. Like a damp, musty smell right in my face. It woke me up. And I remember that smell. It just, you know, like musty, like a basement dank smell. And it woke up, and it lasted about a minute, and then it was gone. I don't know where the smell went. It just disappeared. It was gone. This was May 11th of 2011. We had a lady that ran this machine here, Roberta. I unloaded these narrow bundles, and they were like really, really narrow, and they were like gonna lean over. Well, I moved some out of an aisle and I put them somewhere else, and they were there for like the longest time, and they never fell over, never nothing. They just sat there. Well, Roberta tells me she was walking back, and she says those bundles just fell over by themselves. And I was like, and she says, "Go look, there's smoke, there's dust in the air," that they fell. So I heard and walked over there, and yeah, there was dust, like a dust cloud. They just fell over. And they've been there for 2 days prior to me moving the other ones out of the aisle. So for her to walk back, I mean, it was a good 80 feet. It's 80 feet in, so every post is 20 feet. So you can figure out way down there, that's 80 feet. Nobody was by it, because it was pretty open. And for her to walk by there that far away and all of a sudden it to fall over by itself, that was something else, man. I don't know why. This is June 3rd of 2011. Machine number 5 right there. We had a guy running that. His name was Martise. And we had another guy running the next machine. His name was Chris. Well, Martise was up on his machine, and he's sitting there, and he comes over and tells me what happened. He says, "I was on my machine, and I seen Chris go up on his machine, you know, because he's facing that machine, and he's working, and he's seen somebody walk up there." He didn't say Chris, but he says he's seen somebody walk up on his machine. And, you know, a few minutes go by, he asked Jacob that was down here on the floor, he asks, "Hey, where's Chris?" He says, "Chris ain't here. He was supposed to run that machine." And he says, "No, he ain't here. He called off." Well, then it got in his head, it's like, well, what was it? Who walked up on that machine to run it? Nobody walked up on that machine to run that machine. So that kind of spooked him. June 10th, 2011. I was on my machine, and we have a fire door over there, and it was opened up. It was about a foot or two opened up, and I was sitting there working, and I looked down, and I swear I seen something on the other side of that door in that opening, real quick, just shot by, just shot in real quick. And I was like, I heard and ran over there, and I was looking to see if anybody was back there. Nothing was back there. But I did see something in that opening of that door. June 14th, 2011. In my room I have a window open, but I have a shroud in place. What I'm trying to say is my window's open and has a screen on the outside. And I made like a shadow box to where it's privacy, people can't look in. I can open the window with the screen, but people can't see in my room. And I have a fan on the side so it circulates the air. Well, it was in the middle of the night, I heard a loud snap outside that window. I don't know what it was, but it woke me up twice. This is June 27th of 2011. I was in my room. It was 5 o'clock. And again, it was outside my window. I heard a loud snap. It was out in the warehouse, though. It wasn't right outside the window. It was out in the warehouse. I heard a loud snap. And then a rumble, like thunder. You know, you hear a rumble of thunder after you hear a loud snap. It'll just like fade out. But this was like a quick rumble that I didn't know what it was. Like a box. Someone took a box and rolled it around or something like that. I walked outside. Nothing. I looked outside in the sky. There was no clouds. It was fine. It was clear. No clouds at all. We don't know what it was. Then later on, I come back. I came back here and I'm up on my machine and I'm sitting there and I heard some noises over there between this is 5, 6, and 7. Machine 6 and 7 over there. I don't know what it was. It was some noises and just moving around, stuff moving around. I look over there, I don't see anything moving. Well, anyways, I'm going to stop it right now and stay tuned for another episode. I got a lot more to go through. I'm only on 2011. So, thanks for watching.